Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the next discussion of the CX Goalkeeper. Today I'm really delighted because I have Francesco Brenna together with me. Hi Francesco, how are you?
Hi Gregorio, very well. How are you?
Very well. I am really thrilled to start the discussion with you. You are an expert in digital transformation, in business transformation, and therefore I'm very looking forward to this discussion. But before we deep dive in this topic, as usual, I asked my top players joining the podcast to present themselves. And therefore, Francesco, could you please quick introduce yourself?
Sure, Gregorio. Well, first of all, thanks again for having me. Yes, in myself, I've been in the digital transformation business or in the technology business for the last 20 years. I always worked for IBM. I have a computer engineering as a degree and as a background. So I've spent my entire career in basically applying technology to solve our clients' business problems. I started initially in the whole, software development / digital transformation area, but I very quickly developed during my career a pretty strong passion for data analytics and then lately artificial intelligence. So I really spent the last 15 years working with my clients to try to really understand how to use data, how to use insight from data to really drive business outcome. And as we all know, this is a topic which has grown and has made a lot of progress in the past few years. So it's been a very, very interesting topics. And so therefore, I'm really much looking forward to discuss with you some of the experience I made so far.
Thank you, Francesco. But now I need to ask you, because you said AI. I am speaking with the real Francesco, or is an hologram created to discuss with me?
No, it's the real one. I think we are not there yet in terms of digital avatars. We're making very good progress, and maybe we can, talk about this later in the discussion. But for now, it's the real Francesco.
Ah, perfect. And this is what I really like, having human to human discussion. And you spoke about transformation, and one important piece that often gets forgotten is the people behind the transformation. And therefore, one question that it's really important to me: which values drive you in life?
Good question, Gregorio. I think if I think about myself and really my value, I would probably say three. First of all, I think is hard work. I think I believe there is really nothing you can achieve in life, whether it's personal or professional, without hard work. So really putting yourself into something is very, very important. So that's definitely one of my value. The second one, I would probably say humility. I think staying humble, being humble and really have the humility to work with anyone in your team, in your professional environment is very, very important. And I think the last one is probably, which is more on the private side as well, is happiness. I need to enjoy what I do. So I need to wake up every morning with a smile on my face to really have the motivation to do what I have to do. So happiness is definitely an important value to me too.
Oh, thank you very much, Francesco. And I think these are three important values that you are also living every day when you are helping other companies going through a business transformation or a digital transformation. A lot of companies nowadays are heavily investing in transforming themselves. We are always hearing to be ready for the future. As a global leader in this field, what's happening?
Well, I think it's a very good question, Gregorio. And I think if I look at what's the last maybe 3-4 years, I think we have all seen a incredible acceleration on digital transformation during COVID, right? I think this has really, for us working in tech, have probably been the busiest time of all our career, right? The 2 years, 2020, 2021. So we have seen a significant acceleration in the digital transformation because all of a sudden, will a lot of organizations realize how important digital it is and it was for their business, but also they realize how behind most of them really were in terms of the digital transformation. So we have seen a huge acceleration in that. And now coming out of the COVID, I would say there is this will continue. Now, we were before this podcast, you and I were briefly talking about the current macroeconomic situation that we all live in. I think there is a lot of focus and a lot of work being done to really, I would say, do more with less. So the role of efficiency and that is going to be required across every organization is going to be very, very important. So that's one aspect. I think the other two aspects, which are really becoming more and more important, are first of all cybersecurity. I'm seeing a lot of traction, a lot of focus on really driving cybersecurity within an organization with all the digital transformation, which leads to new distributed architecture, edge devices, AI being deployed anywhere. I mean, cybersecurity become a super, super critical aspect. So a lot of work going on in that area. And I think the last one is probably becoming more and more important is the whole sustainability agenda. I mean, just coming out of the COP27 from last two weeks, I think we are obviously seeing a lot of the work that countries and government are doing, but I think organization we really have to start doubling down on them and really have to start doing some real action around sustainability, because that's really becoming a key differentiation for many organizations across any industry going forward. So I would say these are probably the three main things I'm seeing in the industry right now.
I think these are really interesting topics, and these are touching us as employees, as consumers, but also as human beings. And perhaps based on your global experience, do you see common partners among countries and industry that you can say these are really the key topics?
In terms of these opportunities, you mean?
Correct.
Well, I think, as I said, I think the whole sustainability and cybersecurity is definitely something which is really a cross industry topic. It doesn't really matter if you're in financial service, in retail, or industrial sector. These are really topics which are pretty much common. So that's definitely one area I would say. The other one I think is which goes along the digital transformation that I mentioned. I think is the transformation, the talent transformation, which is actually required to drive the transformation. I think the new skills, the new operating model, the new approaches that you need within your organization to really drive that transformation are really common across every industry, every countries. And I think it's probably one area where organizations are still struggling a bit, and where still going to be a bit of a challenge for most organizations going forward. Because that's really the big change which will need to happen across industries.
I think this is really interesting. I see working on the corporate side that companies start creating strategies, roadmaps, starting one project and then the other, and then changing this plan and so on. But the real results out of these transformation programs are not always exactly as expected. Everybody's expecting now we change everything and everything will get better, but it's not so. What's your view on that?
I mean, it is definitely like this, right? I mean, there is a lot of let me say, a lot of talking about digital transformation, about driving innovation within an organization. But I think if you look at what's really happening, I think a lot of organizations, like you said, are really struggling to get this done at scale and really to deliver some of the business value they're expecting. And I think if I look at some of the reasons behind that, based on just my personal own experience as a consultant, I see few things. Number one, I think, as I mentioned already, is really the fact that most organizations are really struggling with the speed of execution of this transformation program. It's probably mainly because skills and approaches. I mean, a lot of organizations are still working very much waterfallish, very much with a clear cut between IT and business, and that's really hindering transformation, hindering a speed of execution. So I think really the challenge of driving agile processes within organization, not just in the IT, right, which has been a common pattern for quite some years, but also in business, and bringing IT and business together to drive that is really important. The second aspect, I think, it's the whole underestimation still of the value of data and the value of the quality of the data you need, regardless of what problem you're trying to solve, regardless of what process you're trying to digitize. being able to leverage the right data, whether it is your customer, your product, your services, it's it's very, very important. And a lot of organizations are still struggling to get the right quality, the right governance around that data. And then the third aspect is definitely skills, right? I mean, a lot of this digital transformation requires new skills within the organization, which needs to be built up, but also requires technology skills and digital skills within the business at any level, which today is in many organizations we still don't have. So I think these are kind of the key challenges I see as a consultant.
From your point of view, three outstanding challenges to tackle. Perhaps we can deep dive one after the other. The first one is, you mentioned agility. And I think this is exactly the main point. Companies start trying to be agile with Scrum and all this stuff in the IT, and they are not able to get the business and work together with the business and then drive this transformation at the pace, with the speed that it's required. Perhaps on this agility topic, what's your view? First of all, what's hindering companies to be really agile, overall agile, and not only in the IT? And second, perhaps do you have also some suggestion how to tackle these problems?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is again a very good question. I think what's hindering, in my opinion, is primarily a cultural aspect. So really changing the mindset within the organization about IT and business working together. I mean, even though everyone says we want to work agile, as I said, most of this agile work is being done in the IT. So really driving a change of the mindset on the business side and really bringing business and IT together is going to be essential. Now, how do you do it, right? I mean, first of all, I think there is one aspect which is really, really important, is that every project that you're going to run, you need to start from the very beginning with business and IT together to really together kind of shape ideate what the solution is going to be, and applying techniques like simple techniques like design thinking session, for instance, where you bring IT and business people together to really think about what is the customer pain points that we want to address, right? What is the customer problems that we want to solve, and really together ideate and shape a solution. It's really, really gonna be very important. So bringing these two together is definitely one of the key aspects of that. And in order to do that, I think you need to probably inject some of this mindset into the business, whether this is through change agent to people who have these digital change skills within the business. Who are a bit more technology savvy within the business is definitely going to be very, very important as a kind of a best practice.
I think, thank you very much for touching this topic, focusing on the customer, or on the human being and understanding them. And I think the other thing that you mentioned is data, and the topic around you said governance around data, because I see, and I'm discussing with a lot of companies, the target is to get the most possible data, but they are not leverage the data and creating really outcomes with this data. And you are an expert in analytics, AI, and all these technologies, this solution that can help leverage the data, create value out of the data. Could you please elaborate a bit on that?
Absolutely. And I think even on the data side, to be honest, Gregorio, I don't think it's a technology problem. Is again a cultural / governance type of problem. Because I think what we need to do is really shifting from, like you said, collecting all this sort of data into a centralized big data platform like every organization has been doing for the last 20 years, towards a much more data products type of thinking, right? We need to think about data as a product like any other products. What is the value that this data is going to provide? What is the customer journey that this data is going to enable? So thinking data as a product, and there are many approaches now which are being adopted in the industry, things like data mesh, for instance, where you really try to push the ownership of the data into the domains, really having the domain-driven kind of architecture, where you have your customer domain, for instance, being responsible to create all the various data products around your customer experience, right? So you're really moving from, okay, these are my 20 databases where I have all sort of data customers to this are my 3-4 data products which I have in my customer domain, which delivers this following capabilities and value. I think this is a really mindset change. I mentioned governance because obviously in order to create these data products, data governance is going to be very, very important. So being able to understand where your data is, who owns it, what's the quality of the data, is going to be super critical in order to enable these data products. So I think establish the right governance approaches within your organization, stewardship, the various processes is going to be very, very important.
Thank you. And from the 3 topics you mentioned, agility, data, and skills, now I would like to deep dive on the skills topic. We had also a short discussion at the beginning, prior recording this episode, and we spoke about the war of talents, getting the right talents, getting the right skills. How is the market developing in this skills war?
Well, it is really a hot market, Gregorio. It is I think it is very difficult for any organization, and particularly for organization, I believe, outside of the tech industry, to really attract young talents, particularly in the, we were talking about AI, so data scientists, data engineers, to attract them into your organization, but then most importantly, to retain them within the organization. So I think these are people who really wants to work on some of the most difficult and exciting challenges. They want to learn every day something new. So they are really, really eager to advance their skills and their career. So we really need to give them the right platform to be able to achieve that. It's not easy, right? Especially if you are outside of the tech industry, to create, first of all, the right brand for you to attract these talents, but then also give them the right type of work to retain them in your organization is going to be very, 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 very difficult. And I think this is really, really a hot market and will continue to be like that. I think one other areas, though, that I mentioned, if I may deep dive a bit more, Gregorio, from a skills point of view, is also not just how you kind of hire and retain these people, but how do you infuse these new skills within your organization, right? Because that's really also important. It's not enough just hire 50 smart data scientists. It's also how you're going to leverage them in the best way so that they can really drive value for your organization. So thinking about what is the right operating model for you, for your organization, is going to be super important. And in terms of approaches and best practices, we see the adoption of so-called center of excellence or center of competence, where you start maybe with a centralized one, bringing all your kind of skills together and use this to serve other part of your business to drive this change as a kind of a starting point. But then as you start to evolve and mature in terms of your digital transformation, I see more and more of this becoming like a federated model, where you start to, going back to our domain-driven design that we talked about before, when you start to infuse this kind of COE within your line of business, right? Think about having a COE in your customer domain, in your finance, in your HR. So this is really the operating model aspect, and how you're going to infuse this within your organization is going to be very, very important too, from a skills point of view.
I think what you're saying, it's key, because we are using and we are trying to leverage new way of working. You mentioned, for example, agility. And I think this is a great example to first get all the people together, to upskill them, to help them understanding agility, that it's a mentality and it's not a framework to use, but then to bring them into the operating units, as you mentioned, finance, operations, marketing, and IT, because then you have also the ambassador outside of of your core of the business or digital transformation. And the more ambassador, the more people help you understand, drive you this transformation, the best it is. And therefore, I think it's key. And you are a senior leader, you are a big expert, but you are also a leader, people leader. And you mentioned upskilling people, new generation with new expectation. Perhaps do you have also some suggestion what you are doing that it's working very well also for my audience?
Yes, I mean, we obviously, like I said, we do, I spend personally a lot of time in trying to really create the right environment for this new generation, particularly to come to us, but also then to stay with us. And a few things that we do is, or a few examples, a few best practices that I can share is, first of all, I think it's about the community. So I think we need to create a sense of belonging for these people within the organization. They need to feel being part of a bigger team. They need to feel to be part of something very, very important for their organization, not just a little team within a line of business solving some particular problem. So we do this, for instance, by running every quarter. We run hackathons, for instance, where we bring these people together with our business leaders to solve some particular business problem. So every quarter we focus on a particular topic, like sustainability or ethical AI or a particular industry, and really let these people working with our business leader, working with our other part of the organization to really getting together and really work on something very, very important and very impactful for them. So this sense of community is definitely important. The other thing is really giving them opportunity to grow, right? I mean, giving them the right role, the right challenge, which is not always an easy thing, but you need to think about challenging them all the time. These are not people who wants to do the same job for 1 or 2 years. These are people who wants to be challenged, every week, right? So you need to think about how do you rotate, for instance, these people across their roles very often, right? We try to, for instance, across the client's project that we do, to really rotate these people so that they can learn something new, they can get into another client's environment, getting exposed to a new industry, new business problems, and really being challenged all the time. I think if you can keep them challenged, if you can keep them outside of their comfort zone, they will remain eager to work in your organization, eager to learn and eager to stay. I think these are probably the two main, and there are others, but I think these are the two main things, practical things that we try to apply to our teams.
Thank you, Francesco. I think eager people that want to achieve something also deliver outstanding projects. And we meet, let's say, once a year, 2 times a year, and you always share great solution that you delivered for your customer. Perhaps do you have in mind one example that you can share with the audience, for sure, without any names, what you delivered, one of the last project that you delivered that you said, this is really something great?
Yeah, I mean, there are so many. Let me think about what probably one I would mention is a work which we have been doing, and I cannot mention the client name obviously, but is in the financial service industry, which is really something exciting because it goes and is an AI type of project that we did, which goes really kind of push the boundaries of the art of the possible. So we have worked with a large financial service institution in really applying the early stage of generative AI to really look at how we could help them deal with the huge amount of unstructured data that they have, particularly around regulation in banking, and really being able to have a much more efficient approach on understanding them, extracting the right insight, summarizing them, and really generate value out of this, document or knowledge, which used to be a compliance or a cost aspect, but not really an added value type of thing. So really applying this newer way of language model with generative AI in summarizing this document and understanding the complex semantics of these topics using AI. It was quite impressive to see the result. It was quite exciting type of work, and even though it's not a huge transformation, it was definitely something super, super exciting for us and our team.
Thank you, Francesco. And as you are here, nowadays, everybody's speaking of the latest projects, the latest algorithm in AI that can create books, answer all the questions, and so on. What's happening? Could you please create a bit of clarity around these algorithms? Are they really to answer all the possible questions and solve every problem that we have?
I think, Gregorio, we're still probably far away from having a kind of a general purpose AI, but I think this new foundational model, based on this, transformer architecture, for those of you who are a bit more technical, maybe, you can have a look at the old transformer architecture, is really having a significant change to the whole approach to AI, right? I mean, if you look at what OpenAI has been doing, I'm sure some of you have heard this, Chat GPT, right? This new language model that OpenAI just released literally 2 days ago or last week, which is this chatbot, which I would say is the first real general purpose chatbot generated by anyone. It's a huge language model which allows you to ask any sort of questions, and the model can generate answer on the fly in real time based on the knowledge that it has, and it's really, really impressive. So I think we're making huge step forward with this. But I think, and the same is true, I don't know, for those of you who have heard this, Pathways, which is another language model created by Google. We're supposed to be able to handle 1,000 languages, in any sort of use cases, from language generation, answering, summarizing text, so all sort of use cases. So these are really, really impressive improvement. I think going forward, what I see, if we will probably meet in 5 years, Gregorio, what I'm expecting to happen is that to understand how we are going to make these models scale in the business, in a sense that these are general purpose, they can answer all sort of questions, but in business, we need AI model who can really solve a customer problem, a legal problem, a banking problem. So how do we make them, how do we specialize them on certain topics? What's the training going to be required to do that? I think there is still a lot of work which needs to happen to really make them useful for businesses, but I think the potential is huge. The second aspect to that is actually the whole ethical AI aspect. I think these models are creating, that's probably one of the reasons why even Google and OpenAI are kind of taking a bit slowly in terms of adoption, because there are big ethical questions which still needs to be answered about this model. How do we ensure that they are not biased? How do we ensure that we can explain them? How do we ensure that they are transparent? So there is a lot of work which still need to happen from a pure ethical AI before we can really see a strong adoption of these models. But it's super exciting, and I think great opportunity going forward generated by these new approaches.
Thank you, Francesco. And for the records, we are recording this episode mid of December. Therefore, Francesco said last week were released. The episode will be published a bit later. You spoke about in 5 years' time, but if I have you on my podcast, and I'm sure we will meet again in 5 years, let's speak about 10 years' time. In 10 years' time from now, you are back to my podcast. I hope that it's still a podcast, perhaps in the metaverse, but that's another discussion. And what we are discussing about?
It's that's a really tough one, Gregory, especially if we talk about AI, because it's really, really difficult. I mean, as I said, if I look at going back to this generative, this new foundational model, I think probably, I'm sure that in 10 years, we will be talking about how these models are really driving value within the business, because I'm sure the old research is going to go in that direction. So these models are going to see adoption across the business. So I wouldn't be surprised if in 10 years we will have really machine learning system writing entire company reports, or reading a legal document and being able to tell you exactly what you need to do. So I think these models are going to really see adoption very quickly across the business. The second aspect, I think, is the whole regulation and AI ethics. As I mentioned, we are just starting to talk about the importance of AI ethics. I think in 10 years, every single model which will be out there in either in private or in professional life will have to be explainable, will have to be transparent, will have to ensure that is unbiased. So I think this will play a huge role in 10 years. And then last but not least, I think AI, to be honest, right now is still being used pretty much to automate business. So it's a very much efficiency type of use case. I see AI in 10 years being much more an augmentation of our human capabilities in decision making, in research, in discovery type of use case. Think about medical area. Think about pharma or science discovery. So I see AI much more as a augmentation wheel of our human brain in all these very complex decision processes, rather than just automating, let me say, business processes like it pretty much does today. So these are probably generative AI, full ethics, and the whole kind of augmentation of our human brain is probably where I see the evolution over the next 10 years.
That's really, really interesting. Thank you very much, Francesco. But we are coming to an end of this game. And in the extra time of this short game, I would like to ask you 3 questions. The first one is there a book that you would like to suggest to the audience that helped you during your career or during your life?
Let me think about the last ones that I read. Probably I would suggest, and this is a very famous one, but I think The Infinite Games of Simon Sinek has definitely been an eye-opening book. It has helped me as a business leader to really understand how to think beyond just your kind of a quarter or financial metrics, but really think about what's the purpose for you for your company, for you as a leader, and for your team. So I think for any leaders who haven't read that book yet, I think it's definitely one book I would strongly recommend.
Indeed, it's worth it. I think it's really a great book. And if somebody would like to contact you, what's the best way?
I think either on LinkedIn is probably the best way. I'm sure you can publish my email address after this. I'm very much open to to engage in any discussion, so I'm very reachable. So please feel free to reach out.
And I can confirm that you're reachable. That's great. And therefore we are in contact since years. And now really the last question is Francesco's Golden Nugget. It's something that we discussed or something new that you would leave to the audience?
No, I think we probably discussed a lot of things. The only thing I will leave maybe with the audience, which is one thing which has always helped me in my career, is to be very curious. I think curiosity is, in my opinion, a very, very important quality for any leaders, especially in this area, right? In the type of work that we do, being curious for what's happening, what's coming next. It's really, really important to shape your mindset as a leader, and also to bring you further in terms of your knowledge, in terms of your content. So I think be curious. It sounds simple. But sometimes it's difficult to adopt it, but it's very, very important.
That was Francesco's Golden Nugget. I'm not allowing myself to comment that because it was your Golden Nugget. The only thing that I can say is thank you very much, Francesco, for your time.
Thank you, Gregorio, and thank you to your audience. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. Francesco, please stay with me, and to the audience, we love feedback. Therefore, feel free to reach out to me or to Francesco, as he mentioned, through his contact details that you will find also in the show notes. Thank you very much. Have a nice day. Bye-bye. If you enjoyed this episode, please share the word of mouth. Subscribe it, share it. Until the next episode, please don't forget, we are not in a B2B or B2C business. We are in a human-to-human environment. Thank you.